About to show you 10 missed calls last game. That Caitlin Clark got fouled and the ref never called it. There's a moving screen. She's moving all over the place. Hits her with the shoulder, like always. Look at this. Fouls her, holding her, and fouls the crap out of her. No foul. Look at this. She got fouled the whole game. They didn't call this a foul. Look at this one. Like, her body's all over her. How is that not a foul?
Caitlin Clark.
Look at Caitlin Clark's arm. Because after another Indiana Fever game, the conversation wasn't just about her points, her threes, or another ridiculous passing performance. It was about the marks left on her forearm. Fans slowed down the footage, zoomed in, and started asking the same question. How much contact is too much before the officials have to step in? And the timing made the whole thing even more interesting. Clark had just torched the Chicago Sky for 37 points, 10 assists, and 8 three-pointers, while the tension surrounding her matchup with Dejanai Carrington was impossible to miss. But what happened between the whistles became almost as interesting as what happened on the scoreboard. And the deeper you look, the more complicated this story becomes. The game itself should have been the headline. Clark was on fire. 8
more 30-point, 10-assist games in her career, with 5, than the rest of the WNBA has combined in league history. Let that sink in. I'm going to have a sip of coffee while that sinks in. Yeah. Yeah. By herself, she's got more 30-point, 10-assist games by herself than the entire league combined. Entire league history combined.
Look at this one. Cardosa.
Pointers, 37 points, 10 assists. The kind of performance that can completely take over a game. Yet almost immediately, clips of the physical moments started circulating online. One of the most discussed sequences involved Carrington making contact with Clark, followed by Clark simply waving her away. No long confrontation, no dramatic speech, just a quick gesture that seemed to say, "I'm not doing this today." And that moment mattered because the Clark-Carrington matchup has already developed a history. Every collision gets magnified. Every reaction gets analyzed. Every replay becomes another piece of evidence in a much bigger debate. But there's an important distinction here. A heated rivalry is not automatically proof that one player is trying to hurt another. Basketball is physical, and sometimes the line between aggressive defense and unnecessary contact is incredibly thin. That gray area is exactly where this
Swipes her once, twice, just tries to grab her. Can you imagine being fouled the entire game? Every time you hit half court, every time you dribble, every time you drive. Look at this. Sheldon clearly has her hand on Caitlin Clark's shoulder when she's shooting it. They even showed a replay. It's exactly where I thought it was. Watch this. Her arm is on Caitlin Clark's shoulder.
Controversy lives. Then came the footage of Clark's arm. Fans noticed what appeared to be scratches and marks. And suddenly the discussion shifted from one game to an entire season of physical defense. Social media reactions were intense. Some fans argued that Clark was being targeted because defenders struggled to contain her normally. Others pushed back, saying this is simply what happens when a superstar constantly has the ball in her hands. And honestly, both sides are touching part of the truth. Clark does attract enormous defensive attention. She handles the ball, creates shots, attacks space, and stretches defenses from well beyond the three-point line. That means defenders are going to make contact with her. The real question
While Caitlin was on 10 assist games in WNBA history, Caitlin Clark, 5. The rest of the WNBA history combined
isn't whether she gets hit. Of course she does. The question is whether similar contact is being officiated consistently. That's where the free throw conversation enters the picture. The competitor transcript makes a dramatic claim about Clark getting only 8 non-technical free throws across 12 quarters. But this is exactly the kind of statistic that needs to be checked against the actual game logs before turning it into a major accusation. A small chow. What happens when two of the biggest young stars in the WNBA stop treating each other like ordinary opponents? Because Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers just gave fans another reason to believe this rivalry could become one of the league's biggest storylines.
look at this. This is where you're like, this is loser shit. Oh, I'm going to pretend to flop. Dejanay just shoved Caitlin. She literally just walked into Caitlin and shoved her. Caitlin dribbled the ball and she just shoved her. And she just goes that. Caitlin didn't even throw her head back. And then waits for Caitlin, like, starts shit talking, throws her head back. Caitlin doesn't see her, and then goes and does it again. Like, that is the most loser shit ever. That is the most loser shit ever. Like, and the worst part is that Dejanay checked into the game while Caitlin Clark was, like...
The game itself was already huge. Indiana was chasing another important win. Dallas had plenty to prove, and both teams were fighting for playoff positioning. But then one possession changed the entire mood. Clark was frustrated after contact that wasn't called. Buchers appeared to tell her to calm down. And suddenly, a regular basketball game had turned into another viral moment. And the strangest part? The two players didn't even leave the game with bad blood. Clark later spoke highly of Buchers. So what actually happened? The Fever entered the matchup carrying serious momentum. And Clark was once again at the center of almost everything. Indiana wanted to do offensively, but Dallas had no intention of letting her control the game comfortably. Buchers and the Wings were aggressive from the beginning, and every possession involving Clark seemed to come with another defensive challenge. Then, just before halftime, things boiled over. Buchers made contact with Clark during
WNBA player to be suspended after she intentionally pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye. You can see here, she misses the ball with an open palm and then hones it into this little sharp, pointy hand and jabs it right into her eyeball. One more time, right in the eye. And believe it or not, she didn't even get a foul for this. It was so intense as well that as the game progressed, you could tell she was getting a black eye just from the hit. There is no doubt in my mind that what this WNBA player did was 100% intentional, and honestly, I think
during a defensive sequence, and the officials didn't immediately blow the whistle. Clark reacted with visible frustration, pulling away and throwing the ball in a moment that instantly caught the attention of everyone watching. Buchers then appeared to tell Clark to calm down. That tiny exchange was enough to send social media into overdrive. And this is where the story gets interesting, because there are actually two different rivalries happening at once. There's the basketball rivalry, where two former #1 overall picks are trying to establish themselves as the faces of the next generation. And then there's the rivalry created by the audience, where every confrontation between Clark and another star gets treated like the beginning of a war. The players may simply be competing. The internet wants a storyline. And with Clark and Buchers, the storyline practically writes itself. Think about their backgrounds. Clark arrived in the WNBA as the most hyped prospect in recent memory after becoming one of the most productive players in college basketball history. Buchers followed as another generational prospect, entering the league with an enormous resume of her own and immediately becoming the 2025 Rookie of the Year. By 2026, both were already all-star starters. That means these aren't two random young players who happened to get into an argument. These are two stars who have been compared for years, and now they're doing it on the biggest stage. But here's where the situation takes a turn. Clark didn't come out of the game calling Buchers dirty. She didn't launch into a public feud. Instead, after the game, Clark praised Buchers and described her as a tremendous player. That response matters because it tells you something.
On the bench, and Dejanay started off really well. Really well, Dejanay started. As soon as Caitlin Clark, as soon as Caitlin Clark checks in the game, Dejanay suddenly is like, I don't care about basketball anymore. I don't care about basketball. The only thing that I care about is, can I go?
What happens when the most dominant player of her generation runs into the biggest young superstar the WNBA has seen in years? Because the Aya Wilson and Caitlin Clark debate has reached a point where fans aren't just arguing about who is better. They're arguing about what the WNBA should value most: dominance, consistency, defense, scoring, playmaking, team, success. And now, with the 2026 season heading toward its final stretch, the MVP conversation has become almost impossible to ignore. Wilson is still the clear favorite in the latest MVP race, while Clark has stormed into the conversation after a much stronger stretch of the season. But there's something much more interesting underneath all of this. These two stars don't actually need to have a personal feud for their rivalry to become enormous. The basketball itself is enough. Aya Wilson has already built a resume that most players could only dream about. 4 MVP awards, multiple
Look at her arm. Caitlin Clark has just 8 non-technical free throws in her last 12 quarters of play. They seemingly hate her.
This wasn't called a foul. This wasn't called a flagrant foul. There was no whistle blown on this play. This play never went under review. This play has absolutely nothing to do with basketball. As you can see, the ball is all the way over there. This is just someone getting mauled. The WNBA is stupid and is not a serious organization.
championships, Defensive Player of the Year honors, scoring titles, Finals MVPs. By the middle of the 2020s, she wasn't simply one of the best players in the league. She had become the standard other players were measured against. ESPN recently identified her as the clear 2026 MVP frontrunner, noting that she was leading the league in scoring at 26.6 points per game. And that creates a fascinating problem for Caitlin Clark. Because Clark isn't chasing an ordinary player, she's chasing Aya Wilson. And the gap between their games is exactly what makes the debate so fascinating. Wilson can take over a game without dominating the ball in the way a point guard does. She can score inside, punish smaller defenders, rebound at an elite level, protect the rim, and completely change what an opposing team can do around the basket. Clark operates from a completely different part of the floor.
The game that Dejanay Carrington had circled on her calendar and wanted the world to see happen tonight. And how did it turn out? Caitlin Clark had 37 points, 10 assists, 8 threes, and we got this lovely reaction. But I want to point out something that happened in the game. Some of the Chicago Sky, including Dejanay Carrington, to me, were looking for a fight this game. And Caitlin, instead of talking about it in the media, just did.
Her range stretches defenses farther than almost anyone. Her passing creates opportunities before defenses even realize they're in trouble. And when she's playing at full speed, Indiana's entire offense can suddenly become unpredictable. One player controls the game through power, efficiency, defense, and interior dominance. The other can control it through space, shooting, passing, and tempo. So when people ask, who's better? They're really asking a much harder question. What does valuable actually mean? And that's where this MVP race gets heated. Aya's argument is almost impossible to ignore. She's doing what she's done for years, producing at an elite level while anchoring one of the league's premier teams. She's not having to convince voters that she belongs in the conversation. She's already established herself as the benchmark. In fact, Wilson is coming off a 2025 season in which she won her 4th MVP and helped Las Vegas win another championship. Clark's argument is different. She doesn't have to prove that she's the most dominant interior player in the league. Angel Reese just did something the WNBA hadn't seen before. And somehow, Caitlin Clark is still part of the story. On August 25th, Reese grabbed an unbelievable 26 rebounds against the Los Angeles Sparks, breaking the WNBA's single-game rebounding record. But that wasn't even the only record she broke. The performance pushed Reese to 458 rebounds for the season, surpassing Aya Wilson's previous single season mark of 451. And suddenly, the player who has spent years being compared to Clark.
These are the plays. Look. Yanking her hair down. Oh, that's a basketball play, y'all. And tell me if you notice a common denominator. Look. Basketball play, look. Basketball play. I didn't know you can rip somebody's hair out. That's a basketball. Look. Ankle injury. That's a basketball play, y'all. Look. Poke right in the eye.
With her
is building a resume that demands attention completely on its own. That is what makes the latest chapter of the Clark-Reese rivalry so fascinating. Because for years, the conversation was almost impossible to escape. Who was better? Who was more valuable? Who would have the bigger career? Every time one player had a great game, fans immediately searched for a way to compare it with the other. But now Reese has reached a point where the numbers are starting.
basketball skills, and this is one of the plays that happened.
Indiana can regain the lead. Clark, another step back 3. Yes. and a little bit of passion afterwards. You love it. This is
So Dejanay purposely runs into Clark, and then Clark just waves her off. Just waves her off. You can tell that Clark was just over that storyline and with that rivalry.
It took the ref
To speak for themselves. 26 rebounds. Not 20. Not 22. 26. The previous WNBA single-game record was 24. Set by Shameik Holdsclaw way back in 2003. Reese didn't simply match it. She blew past it. And she did it while helping Atlanta beat Los Angeles 78-71. That alone would have been enough for a headline. Then the second record arrived. Reese's 458 rebounds. This season moved her past Wilson's 451 rebound mark.
30 business days to call this foul on Caitlin Clark. But of course, they want to demonize Clark and be like, she was overreacting. She's the most fouled player in the league. What are we doing? Why was the whistle not blown right here? Grabbing her, blow the fucking whistle, man. And then she had to do all this again to finally put her hand up. Like, what are we doing, man? Enrique's ugly ass falling down all over the place, foul call. You look at Asia Wilson, foul call, but
From 2024. And remember, there are still 6 regular season games remaining. So the number Reese eventually finishes with could become even harder for the next player to catch. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because when Reese entered the WNBA in 2024, almost every conversation around her seemed to involve Caitlin Clark. Their rivalry had already exploded during college basketball. LSU versus Iowa, Reese versus Clark, the 2023 National Championship, the famous celebration, the enormous television audience.
Not this many basketball players in the world. There's not this many coincidences in the world. She went up like this and came down like this and poked an eye. Knocked her all upside her head. Now she got to see, like, this is what you call a track record. Look, not even going for the ball. Like, come on.
But that's what Dejanay Carrington does.
And we know, and that's been part of the problem because we telling y'all, and we've been telling y'all, this is what she does and has.
Then they entered the WNBA together. And suddenly, one of the biggest storylines in women's basketball had followed them into the professional game. But something has changed. Reese doesn't need Clark to make her story interesting anymore. And that might be the biggest development of all. Look at what happened in Atlanta. Reese finished with 11 points and 26 rebounds, along with 3 assists and 3 steals. It wasn't a traditional scoring explosion. It was something different. She completely controlled the glass.
now it is no way y'all trying to talk about Caitlin Clark shooting 13 free throws. The same people that call Asia Special Whistle Wilson the GOAT, that shoots 50 million free throws a game. The same people that glaze Angel Reese, the free throw merchant that has to flop to get points because she can't shoot. Free throw merchant, but Clark got 13 free throws in a loss. But also, it takes the rest.
Missed shot became another opportunity for Atlanta. Every possession gave her another chance to extend the team's advantage. And eventually, she had rewritten the record book. That's been Reese's calling card throughout her career. She can change a game without needing to score 30 points. Her rebounding creates extra possessions. Her activity creates second chances. Her defense forces opponents to think twice around the basket. And when those things start stacking up, the box score can become ridiculous.
Looking direct. Look, why is her hand not up? Takes the ref 30 business days to call this. But let's demonize Clark. No, all these players fear Caitlin Clark. They fear for their lives when this woman is on the court and they have to hack her, tackle her. I done see some tackle Clark in this game and everything because she's the 11th best guard and we're going to guard her this way though. Like, you guys are fucking ridiculous, man. It's like the refs just want Clark to get beat up and hacked. These people just want her to just play through it. And it's like, it's not part of the game to get fouled and have to play.
Really think that the referees are in on it, meaning like I think the referees, potentially being directed by the commissioner, are in on really screwing with this chick and really, really, really trying to, I don't know if run her out of the league or make her look stupid or what. Am I the only one that thinks this? She's on her 6th or 7th. I think at 8, you get suspended for a game. She picked up her 8th, but then, they quickly reversed it.
All she got to become is lesbian.
Every single
they'll quit.
Well, but what if she doesn't want to be lesbian?
Well, then she's going to have to get run off.
No foul called. So she could get hit, she could get assaulted, but they only call fouls if it's on her for not doing anything. That's what I've learned. Look at this. So Angel Reese could hit Caitlin Clark in the throat, but Caitlin Clark can't get near Angel Reese. What about this double standard? So she could elbow Caitlin Clark in the chest to create space, but it's a foul on Caitlin Clark. But Caitlin Clark slightly moves her arm and the girl flops, and it's a foul on Caitlin Clark.
When Angel Reese gets a double-double and has a good game and a loss, it's glazed. But when Clark has a good game and a loss, they want to shit on it and do the opposite and be the goofies that they are, man. Goofy, man. Clark is the most fouled player in the league. She got the whistle that she deserved today versus the Dallas Wings, man. She should be shooting free throws like that every single game because people just hold on to her and try to foul her all the time because there ain't no other